Brakat Yahweh, Brakat Yahushai, Brakat Yahweh, Brakat Yahushai, Brakat Yahweh, Brakat Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bahashem, Rachak Kodash. That belongs to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone True Well. Salutations to the hopeful elect out there, you Akim to Zadakim, that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. I'm the priest Shaman, and this week's topic we're going to be discussing, the war rages on in Syria, going back to Syria. Just recently, as of November 30th, news released that you have different groups now trying to topple Assad. Assad is now a threat. Assad is the president or prime minister of Syria? He's pretty much the monarch. Not a monarch. It's not a monarchy over there. He was voted in by the people over there to run that country, Syria. And guess what? War is now breaking out in Syria, right? You have these different Muslim groups in Syria. So I want to speak on that, speak on that, where does things lie, and why the hell does the United States get involved in all these wars? Well, very simple. You can't look at it as in what does the United States gets out of it. You have to look at it as what does Israel get out of it, the state of Israel, them so-called Jews. They use the United States as a proxy for what they want. PNAC, Project for a New American Century, to topple all those Middle Eastern countries. They used 9/11 to get over there and get in a fight with all these different nations over there in the Middle East. Why was that? Because that's in Israel's interest. You kept hearing it's about war, and Iran has nuclear bombs and all this type of stuff. Come to find out, they had nothing to do with 9/11. Actually was an inside job by the so-called Jew in Saudi Arabia. You got to look at this thing honestly like organized crime. It's just like organized crime. This whole government system, these different intelligence agencies, and this is why I say they're not a complete monolith. The elites, they're not a complete monolith, and they have a monolithic view of what they want, but it's not monolithic in who's gonna run it and how we go about it exactly in that sense. Because it's just like organized crime. There's cutthroats, there's backstabbings, there's a lot of secrecy. And the so-called Jew, them gutter rats, Amalek, they're always in the midst of it. And they'll put, they'll prop certain people up. I always talk about this guy. Well, now recently I'm talking about BlackRock and Larry Fink. They're a propped up face to make you think that they can control shit when they really can't. It's just like speaking with the whole mobster thing. So remember, most people during the time was bigging up the Italian mafia and the Italians and the mafia, the Italians. Well, really, it was a so-called Jew that was really controlling a lot of shit. Them Jakes, them so-called Italian Jakes, they were just put at the forefront by Hollywood, which was run by the so-called Jew. You had Lucky Luciano, right? He was just a middleman for what's the so-called Jew name? Meyer Lansky. Yeah, people like Bugsy Siegel. Hell, even Al Capone, he was just a muscle for a guy named Jake Guzik in Chicago, so-called Jew again. So it's the same thing they do. They like to put a lot of people in the forefront, all right, just to hide behind who's really controlling things, right? But let me jump into this scripture real quick. This is Jeremiah 50 and 45. It says, "Therefore hear ye the counsel of the Lord. Ye have taken, therefore hear the counsel of the Lord, that he has taken against Babylon." Babylon is talking about America, a land of confusion, and his purposes that he hath purposed against the land of the Chaldeans, again, America. "Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out." Now the least of the flock, the least of the nation of Edom, is Amalek, all right? Draw them out, what do you mean? Bring them to the valley of Jehoshaphat. Bring them into the Middle East. I shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them, right? So as we've been saying, like concerning what's going on in Ukraine and Russia, World War III, and I've been saying World War III. Well, we all know that World War III, when I say we, the prophets, Amos 3 and 6, the Most High reveals the secrets unto the servants, the prophets. We know that World War III couldn't kick off in Ukraine, okay? More than likely what's going on in Russia and Ukraine is a siege, all right? It's a siege. But it's done very covertly. This is not like the ancient world. They're just trying to bleed Russia's war chest. Just like, what do I mean by that? So the thing is this. That was a whole border dispute that Putin said it was going to last 3 days. However, the United States got involved and started aiding Ukraine, okay, with military supplies and funding, right? Now here's the thing. I'm gonna tell you how this shit is organized crime, and it's in a whole racket, and then I'll circle back to Syria, right? This is the scheme. The scheme is this: you start these war with no intentions to end them, okay? There's no intentions to end these war, because just like you don't want to buy a bottle of milk, you want to have a cow. You want to bleed these wars. So what they do is the military-industrial complex, your Lockheed Martins, your Boeings, your Raytheons, okay? They'll prop up that these particular nations need aid, like Israel needs aid, Ukraine needs aid, and what the United States will do is send them a bunch of vehicles from the military-industrial complex. It don't even matter if they don't really work well, you know, like Ukraine, for example. Those Ukrainian soldiers, they were scratching their head with all that American equipment. They didn't even know how to use them, right? It's just as written in English. They didn't know what the hell to do with them, but it doesn't matter. The whole thing is to have them be bought. You see, so the what you put on the news is that they need aid, okay? Then in the form of aid, you send them money. They use that money to buy back the products from the military-industrial complex. It doesn't matter if it works. And you just keep the cycle going over and over. And what you do to your opposition is bleed them. Because even though Russia, for example, we're sticking with Russia and Ukraine, is far more advanced militarily than Ukraine, all right? The GDP in Russia is like 2 trillion. It's not a super wealthy in terms of like the very top nation. So that shit is just bleeding them. So that's how you could do that. And they did the same thing with Afghanistan, right? They got in Afghanistan not to end a war, okay? They got in Afghanistan for many different reasons, but the reason they got over that, and I did this show, what, maybe 10 years ago, it was over pipelines, right? It was over pipelines because Iran, man, I'm going all over the place. You have countries like China, pretty much Asian countries like China and India, they're willing to overpay for oil. Right now, the pipelines, all right, a lot of the stuff in terms of oil transportation, the ports are in Israel and Turkey, right? The state of Israel and Turkey. Now you have different countries like Iran, Syria, so we're going to circle back to Syria, Iraq, okay, that want to build pipelines. They wanted to build pipelines to Afghanistan, to China. So what do? All right, you just wage a war, okay? Not a war to end anything, just to keep the conflict going. That way no one wants to invest in Afghanistan, okay? And that's the type of shit, this is how wars are fought today. Very covertly, a lot of subterfuge, a lot of bullshit. It's not very overt like it is today. And like I said, Elon Musk buying Twitter was a black swan, because back in 2014, okay, in 2015 and 2016, when you would do lessons on these things, you really it was much harder to find this information, you know, and you really had to vet shit even more. But now with X, it's like a lot of things that they post, people are in the thread saying, no, go to this, look up that, and people are now having like their own open view to things. Mainly the younger generation. The older generation, the boomer generation that just stick to what they see on CNN and TV and shit like that, they could still be manipulated. But the younger generation are going to TikTok and X and all these sort of stuff for their news, okay? And it's making the Mossad's job, they have to put in overtime. The Mossad is the Israel version of the CIA. They have to go harder now, you know, and they're very, very crafty. You know, 2 Corinthians 2:11 says, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices, right? So that's one of Esau, the so-called white man devices, is intelligence agencies, man. Is intelligence agencies. But the Mossad, like I said, through the spirit, the Mossad is going to cause a lot of division in there, man. This dude Trump, he wanted to put in Attorney General Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz didn't get picked because of bullshit. They tried to slander him with some sexual accusations were not even true. But guess what? This dude Kash Patel got put in head of the FBI. You know, he was the one that exposed the whole Russiagate. He was the one that exposed those 2 FBI agents that were sharing texts to, you know, pretty much say they were going to do things to stop Trump from getting in. So now that he's in there, and he's a guy that's been pushing the Epstein list, the Diddy list, and releasing a lot of these different documents, shit is going to get stirred up a bit, you know? And just like any new world order before, any nation, any world order of the time, whether it's the Edomites, the Syrians, the Assyrians, the Egyptians, you fucking name it, they all fell down from infighting. That's how it goes. That's how nations get toppled. They destroy each other from within. The Roman Empire. So no different than now. You legit have different agencies, okay, that were doing things to overthrow the sitting president at the time, right? Blocking him on all platforms, social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter at the time. And Christopher Wray, the head of well, he's going to be the former head, the FBI director, and these different people trying to take this dude out. Now he's back in power, and they're just going to fucking, like I said, there's going to be a lot of shakeup. You're going to see a lot of people go to jail. This is why people believe that Joe Biden just pardoned Hunter Biden, gave him a 10-year sweep. All of this investigation from 2014 to 2024, stuff like illegal firearm possession, child pornography, all these different crimes, you know, money laundering, got swept out because this dude Kash Patel, if the Senate approves, okay, he's gonna release a lot of shit, man. Luke 12:2, the scripture of the year, man. Nothing hid that shall not be made known. But yeah, circling back to the Middle East, this is the book of Joel, chapter 3, verse 9. It says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let the men of war draw near, let them come up. So everything is about war. Like what the Mossad is doing right now is staging things, okay? When I say staging thing, I don't mean in the sense of acting. I mean, like, if you worked in operations before and you have a shipment going out and it's, you know, it has to go out for another day, you'll work on that shipment and you'll stage it over there for when it's time to ship it out. So the Mossad is staging a lot of these different pieces for the ultimate war that's going to pop off in the Middle East with Israel leading the charge. And again, Israel over there, what they've been doing is just creating constant destabilization. I mean, ultimately they would like regime change in Syria, but that's not the goal. Really, I mean, like I said, it's a part of the goal. They would love to have a puppet leader in Syria, but if you could just create constant wars and destabilize that region and do the subterfuge way of sieging, which is you put these assets in, these different groups in there to you call them freedom fighters, right? That's what you do with the news. Like, let's say this is what they're doing with Assad. They don't like that Assad is trying to work with Iraq and work with Iran to create pipelines to parts of Asia. So what they'll do is they'll say, look, he's a dictator. Remember they were saying that he had chemical weapons, and he's using chemical weapons on his own people. Remember the media was saying that? And that you have freedom fighters over there, quote unquote freedom fighters over there, which the freedom fighters is no different than moderate rebels, is no different than BLM. It's just agent provocateurs, right? A lot of those people are just paid mercenaries. They don't even fucking speak Arabic. They just create terror, scream Allahu Akbar, and then, you know, the Mossad, the CIA, the news media run it and shape the minds of the people over here. But that's the whole goal of it, right? It's a monopoly. It's a gang. It's an organized crime. We need monopoly over these pipelines. So that's how come you have groups at the time like ISIS, okay, which is really started again by Israel. When people have on masks over their face, you don't know who's who, right? And you also have Turkey. Turkey's also putting in agent provocateurs over there, again, to destabilize the region, all right, to make conflict. And this happened just after Israel, okay, said they were going to have a ceasefire with Hezbollah, which Hezbollah is a proxy for Iran. And just like people are seeing now, this man's a devil. He speaks with a forked tongue. He says one thing and does the next. Okay, verse 10 says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Abandon agriculture and invest now in war. And the landscape of war is changing. That's one thing that we're seeing, that there's a lot of drone warfare. Like, people are not spending, why spend millions and millions on a tank or a cruise missile when I could just, you know, have a 3D printer, print a bunch of drones and strap C4s to them, you know? So the landscape of war is changing. It's not going to be anymore about who has so-called the most manpower, but who's the more innovative in terms of using AI and these different technologies, all right, to shape the landscape of war. Draw near, let them come up. It says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Now, the weak represents these other nations, okay, that was once weak to the threat of a nuclear attack, okay? Now, you don't need a nuclear bomb to really affect the world in a sense. All you have to do is you can ally yourself with nations that have nuclear bombs, or you can have a very strategic place in the world of, in the geopolitical sense of the whole world. Like, I'll give you an example. Iran don't really need nukes, okay? Because they have the Strait of Hormuz. You know, there was a whole big thing about Iran, you know, they have to denuclearize Iran. Well, why is that? Again, it goes back to these pipelines, right? If Iran started using nuclear energy, then they could just sell more of the oil that they have. And then that, again, that will go against the monopoly that Israel and Turkey has on the ports of the oil that flow out of the east to these different European and Asian countries. So it says 11, it says, okay, pardon me. Verse 11 says, beat your plowshare, Verse 11 says, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord, which are the angels. All right. And these heathens, they're going to gather themselves in the Middle East. As you can see through this show, whether it's Russia, Ukraine, whether it's what's going on in the United States, over there in the Middle East with Syria, Iraq, and Iran, it all stems from the so-called Jews and the shit that they're doing over there in the Middle East. And as long as the state of Israel has its tentacles, okay, in America, America's going to follow suit, okay? Because what they do is they have their lobbyist groups like AIPAC. They have their intelligence agencies like the Mossad, okay, that control politicians, okay? Whether the politician, whether you bribe them in the form of money, lobbying them like AIPAC, or you use the Mossad to honey trap them, okay? You know, so they to get what you want out of them, and that's how you really control things, okay? That's how you don't buy every single person out that's in the government. You don't do that. There's too many points of failure. When you want to control a situation, you don't tell everybody the greater operation. Just like the Manhattan Project, right? The nuclear bomb. They said they had 200. They said they had over 100,000 people working on it, but only 5 people know that was what was being built. That's how you do things. That's how you control secrecy. So you do have a regular politician that don't know shit. He don't know nothing. He don't even know he need him. Like, he's just going about his shit, right? You know. But then you just tap him and say, look, we need this done, that done. You don't tell him the greater picture. You know, you just say, you know, look, you owe me a favor from such and such, or we got this on you, that on you, and that's how they control things, these so-called Jews. Very similar to how, you know, sports are rigged, right? You don't if the Jets is playing the Eagles, you don't pay off the fucking entire team, the coaching staff, and the refs and everybody to say, you know, I want this team to win. You don't do it like that. You get to one player that's in a financial debt. Look, I'll give you such and such. Drop the football when it's passed to you. That's how you rig the game. Okay, it says,
how can I help?
It says, let the heathen be it says, let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. The valley of Jehoshaphat, Yehoshaphat, the Most High's decision. The Most High's decision is judgment. It's over there in the Middle East. And again, a lot of people know this. A lot of people, you know, the only thing we're waiting on is just for the chip to be mandated, man. That's once that prophecy is come to pass, then this thing has already been staged for World War III, okay? And concerning the chip, you know, this dude Donald Trump said he plans to make crypto, specifically Bitcoin, America, the crypto Bitcoin of the world, all right? So that's how come you see crypto running up like insanely, all right? But he also plans to say he doesn't want to do a CBDC. He doesn't want to do a central bank digital currency. And so the same thing that Fed Chairman Powell said. He doesn't want to do a CBDC because it infringes on the United States citizens. Because with a CBDC, just like China been doing this since 2014, all our transactions will be tracked. Now, 2 things concerning that. One, the chip doesn't need a CBDC. It doesn't have to be pegged to a currency for it to be used, right? People are using it now, right? And secondly, a black swan event could throw that shit out the window, just like the just like 9/11, like how they said before 9/11 there was no Patriot Act. They wouldn't say we'll do a Patriot Act. which pretty much gave the government the right to just kick down your door for a terrorist attack. Well, guess what? A Black Swan event could throw everything out the window, where they say, look, we need to monitor everything because we have this global cyber attack or what have you. And they could institutionalize that, make it mandated like that anyways, you know, because if you know anything with politicians and so-called white men specifically, they say anything, you know, and they could go back on their word. They don't keep their word. It says, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come get you down, for the press is full, and the fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes and multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. So don't be surprised if you hear a bunch of propaganda pop out as to what's going on in Syria. They're going to demonize this dude Assad, just like they did Gaddafi, right? You know, Gaddafi was also a part of that in trying to get oil and also a gold reserve currency, okay, and build up his country. And guess what? They took him out. They took out Saddam Hussein, who ironically in 1988 had the keys to Detroit. So you could be their ally until they have to get rid of you. And who's the they? Them so-called Jews. And they use the United States as a proxy. So this is why shit is stirring over there again in Syria, okay? This is how come you're going to see Turkey and Israel have these different, I think they want to call them jihadist groups. So-called, they're going to call them freedom fighters and shit to stir the shit over there in the Middle East. But as we know, all that escalation is just the Most High staging this thing, okay, for when we get into the real nitty-gritty World War III, okay? And all waiting on the RFID microchip to be mandated. So with that, I'm going to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashim Rakha Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone True Well. Salutations to the hopeful elect out there, you Akim to Zadakim, that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. I know I was a bit all over the place, and sometimes I could ramble, but I just hope through the spirit of Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shah, you brothers and sisters were edified. Shalom.